A very warm welcome to The Bottom Line, a wrap of the business news of the day. I'm Frances Hurd. And the second annual South African Investment Conference aimed at injecting hope and real cash into this economy has come and gone. Speaking at the last day held at the University of Johannesburg's Soweto campus, President Cyril Ramaphosa highlighted the role played by small and medium-sized enterprises. 363 billion rand has been pledged overall by companies including MTN, Aspen and Toyota, many more as well. The President says government is committed to supporting SMEs to also flourish across the country's cities and townships.
You can do it.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says under the soon-to-be finalized public procurement bill, organs of state will be required to subcontract SMEs. This will be to a minimum of 30% of the value of the contract for contracts that are above 30 million rands. Ramaphosa says compliance with a 30-day payment period also plays a key role in ensuring the operational sustainability of small businesses.
The public procurement space will be utilized to promote the small-medium enterprise sector, but it will also be utilized to promote local production. Small-medium enterprises will benefit from designated products when they participate in public procurement systems. The tax regime for small-medium enterprises is also being simplified and will be simplified even more. An example of this is the requirement for annual rather than biannual tax returns.
The President says once the Competition Amendment Act is enacted, it will increase access to the economy for small, medium and black-owned businesses. The Competition Commission says this act will help to ensure compliance and fairness.
The new package of the Competition Amendment Act introduces various prohibitions against dominant firms. So these firms now, it will be prohibited. In fact, the President is talking about payment terms. It's going to be prohibited for dominant firms to impose unfair trading practices on small firms, including payment terms. So it's going to be a serious contravention of the law. It's not just going to be a public procurement bill that will deal with that. The Competition Act is designed to deal with these issues.
Small business owners also shared their views.
The economy is bad. Things are not good at all. We're no longer making much money like we used to before. You know, our turnovers dropped 50%. We're still trying to check what's the problem, but our quality is still good. Service is still on point, but people don't have enough buying power.
We are currently working on opening a cooking studio. So what will happen with the cooking studio is that we'll teach people how to cook. It will be a social event. We'll have people at our studio. We have a studio there in Bryanston. That's the next thing for 2020.
Diabo Seto, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Now, British billionaire, serial entrepreneur and business mogul Richard Branson was in town today, telling stories about doing business in South Africa with a warning about artificial intelligence. The Business is an Adventure event was hosted by Branson's airline Virgin Atlantic, along with local bank Investec. One of the topics was business out of the ordinary. When asked why he's still optimistic about the role of business in an uncertain world, Branson told of a bold move that helped Virgin Atlantic establish itself in South Africa. Let's take a look.
I was born an optimist, and I think it's a fortunate thing for everybody to have, to try to be to be optimistic. But you also have to make your own optimism to an extent. And since I'm on stage at the behest of Virgin Atlantic, I just tell a fun story. So many years ago, I would come to South Africa and I would try to get permission to go and see the Minister of Transport and try to get permission to fly here. And every time they would say to me, Richard, yeah, we really would love you to fly. South African Airlines really needs competition. And then I would leave, and then a year later I'd come back, and it was generally a new person who was the minister. And they would say to me, you know, Richard, we really want you to come here, but we do need competition. And again, 12 months later, I'd come back again. And on this occasion, I went in there, and the minister said, Richard, we'd really like you to come there. I think the world of your airline. It would be just great for South Africa. And I knew I wouldn't hear from him for a year. So I went outside the building, and I got our press team who had come down with me to throw the biggest press conference we could. And we thanked this minister for his foresight in wanting us to come and compete. And by the evening, he'd given in, and Virgin Atlantic, ended up coming here. So. So you need a bit of the gift of the gab as well, just to try to push these things through and make your own optimism, I think.
Well, Branson's spaceflight firm Virgin Galactic recently listed on the New York Stock Exchange. Its value fell on the first day. Some investors have punted the stock since then, though. The company is planning flights to the edge of space, right now priced for the very wealthy. Branson dealt with a cutting-edge technological change today, raising some concern, though, about the rise of artificial intelligence. He says he believes some job losses will be unavoidable, and in the background you'll hear the voice of the discussion facilitator, Reddy Clubby.
I think people will benefit from health, from education, from safety in cars, a whole lot of things. But there is the danger that it's going to cost jobs. And so I think companies have got to start, and governments have got to start thinking about, if AI comes in, how are we going to make sure that people are employed? I think that people most likely, if you go forward 20 years, are going to need to get better at looking after their own leisure time. Companies are going to have to pay them the same as they would on a five-day working week, on maybe a 3-day working week.
Yeah, that's funny. 3 days and that's 10. With you tomorrow.
I did say 20 years time. I thought I was safe by then. So we are going to have to make sure that people have the ability to enjoy the fact that they're going to have 3 or 4 days, holidays a week. I think. You could argue that new jobs will be created in different areas and so on, but I just don't think there's going to be enough new areas, and therefore we need to think about that.
Well, the joint CEO of Investec, Fani Titi, also spoke about changes taking place in business at the moment. He says standing still is no longer an option.
I think we live in a world that is very disruptive by its very nature. So you have to embrace risk. You have to embrace different opinions. So at Investec, we have a very flat structure. We try to rely very much on the people that are on the ground because they know best what trends are coming our way. So just that cultural mindset where we look for our people to bring us ideas and to tell us what risks there are on the horizon. So we do both consistent improvement of what we do, but we also look out for new ideas. We operate in markets that are particularly highly regulated, and by nature people tend to be resistant to change because you have regulation and you're always seeking what not to do. At Investec we have a mindset of seeking what to do to solve a client's problem, and in that I think we do have opportunities for new ideas, for innovation, and for our people to bring the kind of ideas that take us forward. We take the view that wisdom is not the preserve of the leadership of a business. We rely heavily on every individual that works at Investec. We rely on their ingenuity, we rely on their spirit of enterprise, we rely on their level of ownership of what we do.
Well, talking about changes, Google perhaps bringing that to South Africa. Google South Africa announcing the launch of a Google station on the Cape Flats. Communities will now have access to free, high-quality Wi-Fi, the company says, at over 100 sites. The tech giant also announced the launch of their app, Bolo, intended to increase literacy levels. Our producer, Akirat Lala, has more.
Google held its first Google for South Africa event in Johannesburg, where it announced a number of initiatives and products specifically tailored to the South African market. the most notable being the launch of Google Station for the Cape Flats in the Western Cape. Google Station is a program to provide fast, free and open Wi-Fi to these areas in partnership with Think Wi-Fi, an internet service provider. Google said that they launched the initiative across over 100 locations in Langa, Khayelitsha, Gugulethu, Delft, Elsie's River, Philippi and more because these areas are some of the most underserved communities in the country with high unemployment and crime rates.
When we started working with Think Wi-Fi, it became clear that if we were going to enter this area, we would need help from the local community leaders who were on board from day one. So community leaders are helping deploy, roll out Google Station hotspots, making sure that people are aware in the community. And also, because of our announcement today, we'll go live with a fair amount of awareness campaign and marketing.
To make the internet accessible and affordable to those with limited smartphone capability, Google revamped their Google Go offering. This is how it works.
Google Go is an app that we announced here today that we launched. It's particularly made for phones that have got low memory, low RAM and other features. Now the advantage of Google Go is that it is super fast, especially for those phones that we call entry-level phones, and it makes sure that your phone does not fill up. It's got very good storage and it's very secure.
Also, for the first time in South Africa, there is now an app called Bolo aimed at increasing literacy levels.
The idea behind Bolo is to help young kids to learn how to read. So the app has actually got an assistant that helps the kid, to interface with the app, and it helps them and gives them feedback every time when they read. If they get it right, they get compliments, and if they don't get it right, they get corrected. And throughout the stage, the app can then track how the kids' literacy is improving.
In terms, South Africa has 11 official languages. Does it cater for all those languages?
So far, it's in English. But what we have done is that we've incorporated South African content. So we've got South African books written in English that we've put in place. But that, for me right now, it's not the main issue. When we launched it originally in India, as I said, it was in just one language. Right now, it's, I think, in 14 other languages. So we keep adding stuff and watch this space. Hopefully in South Africa, we will be able to add other languages as well.
Through the Google Impact Challenge, Google announced an investment of $1 million as part of its 5-year commitment to non-profits and social enterprises to support the economic empowerment of girls and women in South Africa.
We've rolled out a program called Digital Skills Training, Digital Skills for Africa. And to date, we have trained 4 million Africans in 29 countries. And 48% of the people that have actually taken the training are women. We also have, in South Africa, launched an initiative called the Advanced Learning Lab, and it's a certified 6-day in-depth training program, and it's designed to equip entry-level individuals that are just starting out their jobs, starting out their careers, with the skills that they need to pursue a career in digital. And so there we focus on skills related to Google Ads, YouTube, search, Google Analytics, and cloud.
To end their first Google for South Africa event, Gqom artist Busiswa gave a performance, as well as the now world-renowned Ndlovu Youth Choir. There are 125 of these poles stationed across the Cape Flats, indicating free Wi-Fi to a much underserved community. For SABC News, I'm Kirit Lala.
Let's hope that leads to good connections, more productivity, more access for people on the Cape Flats. And we end with the numbers. The JSE slightly down today, the Rand strengthening slightly. The Rand and other emerging market currencies have been boosted by news that China and the United States may roll back tariffs as they continue talking trade. But a contraction in manufacturing in South Africa and another falling business confidence index, raising fresh concerns about the economy today. Factory activity across South Africa fell by 2.4% in September, and a business confidence survey showed investors and managers were pessimistic about the economy in October, with their concerns including Eskom supply cuts. That took some of the shine away from the announcement yesterday that South Africa had secured 363 billion rand in investment pledges from business. Here's a look at those main financial indicators. That was a wrap of the business news of the day. That was the bottom line. Lots more to come on The Full View.